welcome to Navigating Mindfulness. This is honestly one of the most enjoyable things that I get to do today. This specific podcast is really about personal and professional development and, of course, living a mindful life while building your businesses. And I'm super excited to say that, hey, my name is Cheryl Sutherland, and I'm one of your co-hosts, your co-pilots on this delicious journey. And with me, I have the most magnificent person, one of my favorite people, Liza Mchale. Liza, do you want to tell the people about who you is?
Thanks, Cheryl. Hi, everybody. I am Liza Magcale, and I am, student of life above all. Along my journey, definitely met this magnificent, magical manifester, Cheryl. And after a few years of knowing her, we decided to do this podcast in order to share some of the mindfulness tips that have assisted us in navigating our life to where it is. So where I am right now, single mom of a beautiful, precocious 11-year-old girl, navigating whether she's going to go back to school or not. Also an entrepreneur, have a virtual assistance business as well as a CRM consulting company, particularly in Salesforce, and on my journey to releasing 100 pounds. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm going to turn this over to Cheryl so she can tell you some of the exciting stuff that she's working on.
Okay, well, let's look at my nutshell. Obviously, if you've met me before, you know I do a plethora of things. However, all of my brands really come down to one thing, and that's helping you become your favorite version of you. And that looks like personal growth. It looks like, getting clear on what you want for your own business, what it is that you want to do, like in the next steps in your life. I help you do that with either using my personal growth goodies, which are like guided journals, and then messages of positivity, whether they came as like enamel pins, mirror decals, water bottle labels, etc., etc., etc. And then I also do workshops. I also do amazing multiple week courses that are allowing you to delve deeper, getting that experiential magic of just stepping into who it is that you really want to become, what you want to create, and believing that you can have the things that you want. Because ultimately, I think that we all deserve delicious things. Of course, relationship-wise or like regular thing-wise, I'm a single as a shingle, I guess, if that's not a saying, it is now, so Merry Christmas. And actively looking at getting into a relationship and like really seeing what I want that to look like and allowing the universe to deliver that to me. In addition, really creating this new relationship with my body. I mean, like, I'm tall and delicious, obviously. However, there's been like unsheathing of like what that actually feels like, what that looks like, really enjoying working in partnership with my body versus in opposition. And then, just attempting to just, again, do that same work, continue to evolve and to continue to grow. And this is why we really wanted to birth this podcast, because we actually had the most delicious conversation. And it was just this great back and forth, this great rhetoric. And it's interesting because, like, to look at the two of us, you're like, oh, this is this person, or oh, this is that person. But we are just so similar in so many ways. I mean, like, I've always admired Liza for being an amazing business person and just having that strategy and being very clear on what she wants and who she is. And I think that that's something that a lot of people can really aspire to be like, especially with handling and like growing through all these different areas of her own life. And it sounds like, I'm not going to assume because it makes an ass out of you and me, but I also think that it's also reflected. I feel like she also sees a lot within myself that I'm not able to see, and thought me a worthy adversary, no, a worthy partner to come together to do this sort of magic. So for our initial session, what we're going to be doing is setting some of the context, like, what is this podcast? What are we here to do? Why we want to support people? Why we want to create this? And then also letting you get to know a little bit more about us. I mean, we're just not random talking heads, spouting random knowledge. I was like, curriculum, what is that word? Anyway, spouted like, all these different things. We really want to make it so that you get to know us, that you also aspire yourself and inspire yourself, whether it's, seeing different connections that you create as a result of seeing us, of having these conversations. But I also feel most importantly that the growth is really in the sharing. And normally I feel like if you're going to a personal growth workshop or doing an online course or something like that, really that those shares are where the magic happens, because then you realize, oh my gosh, other people think like this, or other people have grown through this, or I can be this too. And then we all create more out of it. So really excited. Hashtag, if I haven't said that already, I'm going to do that again. And what we're going to do is we're going to just talk a little bit more about like the basis of what we're looking to create, and talking about like the peace of mind square, like really taking a look at all 4 areas in our lives where we are actively attempting to grow and are going to be continuing to grow. And then we're just going to give you a little Q&A. You talk a little, like we're going to learn a little bit about more about each other. Yep. And then also help you get to know us as well a little bit more. So with that, Liza,
Yes.
I've been talking for the last 45 minutes, it feels like. What, if you would like to give some context to what we're doing here, that would be delicious.
So personal and professional development, absolutely, especially in business. This my driver was like, I wanted to be better at it. And what I got was this gift of having, I'm not going to say more well-balanced life, but I will definitely say having a life that's more in line with what I dream about. And that has been probably the greatest gift. And Cheryl's magic really, for me, comes from her ability to like light up all the time. She sees where I might be a little bit more strategic. She's also strategic, but she has definitely more fun, seemingly, with things, and with her lightheartedness ways has allowed me to accept sometimes I transition things. Like one of her greatest gifts was I transition through things maybe a little quicker instead of looking at it as a failure. And so that shift in mindset is part of mindfulness, that we want to share that, what she would term juiciness with you, or deliciousness, so that you're also able to acknowledge and receive these wonderful gifts that happen every single day. I mean, we literally had a conversation a couple of weeks ago and decided we should really do this. Not just for ourselves, but for everybody else to, again, know that one, they're not alone. Two, minor things make a huge difference, like this understanding of you didn't necessarily fail, or to fail fast, or the mindset is really the biggest thing. So that's our big thing. You also heard Cheryl talk about the peace of mind square. So I just want to recap really quick what that is. And those are 4 parts. There's the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. And there's subsets to each. And over time, we'll probably go through them, because that is the framework by which we are delivering this information to you. And so we're probably going to be asking a lot of questions and digging deeper into those subsets and how we are living this life. And so one of the misconceptions I had in the beginning was that you would be firing on all sides of the square all the time. And one of the questions is going to be, what are you focusing on right now? Which ties into the mindfulness of being present to the right now, which is the present of the present. So, I mean, that's my synopsis of it, is like all the while building a business, right? So that's where the layer of complexity comes in, I think, where as business owners, you do have responsibilities, fiscal responsibilities, and then you have your familiar responsibilities, and how do you balance all of that and still have a lot of fun? So I think between the two of us, you've got a good mix, and I'm going to turn it back over to Cheryl to see where we're headed next.
I love that. Like, it's like we're passing a baton virtually.
Yeah,
So,
well, I mean, that's the beauty of you and I sometimes, right? Like, we can do that. So where do you want to go?
Okay, so just to add a little bit more magic to what Liza was saying about the peace of mind square, basically, to just contextualize it, everybody has a box that they live in, right? And it's like where you're at right now. And that, of course, is broken up into those 4 areas: the spiritual, the mental, the physical, and of course, relationships. Yeah, I caught
emotional.
Emotional, relationships, emotional, same. Yeah. That's where that plays. And then, so basically when you take a look at your life, and this is actually in my clarity journal that I have with PleaseNotes, it gives you the opportunity to take a look at your life at each of these 4 areas and see, okay, would I rate myself a 5 here? Am I doing a great job? Am I putting too much energy here and not enough energy here? And really, to make sure that you have like a well-rounded life, you want to be putting like as much energy evenly as you can, and then also notice where you're not putting enough or where you want to put more from a place of non-judgment. I mean, like, we all have a point A, and then in order to, you know, decide on what we want next or move into the lives that we want, we have to get clear on what we want that point B to look like. So we're going to be playing on growing you on all 4 of those different sides, and then just being magical. That's just a thing. So we thought, again, the easiest thing to do is, you want to get to know who we are. Are we even worth listening to? The answer to that is yes. And so I'm going to just talk a little bit more about Liza. I'm going to make up a bio for you because I decided. So Liza Mchale is an amazing Canadian businesswoman based out of Toronto, Ontario. She manages her multiple businesses while growing and fostering a relationship with her gorgeous daughter, and making sure that she also knows that she can do anything that she decides to put her mind on. One of Liza's recent attributes and claim to fame is her continual strides in weight loss, where she has continually decided, I deserve and I want and I'm choosing into changing my body into one that worked for me, and therefore is on her way to releasing 100 pounds. With that, Liza Magcale. Okay, so first question. I know, that was great.
I'm so humbled. I mean, as you get to know Cheryl, she is she calls me the strategist, but she is so witty and ready. I mean, look what she just did on the fly.
You like how I dropped the voice and everything?
I know.
Really.
Yeah, your tone's great. Your tone's great.
A1.
I do have a share for you. I do have a share. It's a very big share, and I thought about it earlier, and I didn't even mention it when we were chatting. Today is my 100th day in a row of no flour, no sugar, weighing and measuring my food to a certain point, following a plan. So it's a pretty big day. I'm happy to celebrate with everybody here. 100 days in a row. Yeah, thank you. It's a very, very big deal. So can we jump in? Because I got to tell you, like, the other part of the story with that is no flour, no sugar for 100 days. You know what I was thinking about doing? Like, I want to say 20 days ago or so, was to celebrate, I was going to have scotch.
I mean, honestly, I would do that.
And then
you know who you're talking to, right?
I know, that's why. And then I was like, no, I'm gonna put this scotch away, because I know alcohol is not really gonna be good for my body, and I want to have this aligned relationship with my body. We're up at the lake, and at the marina they were selling these chocolate brownie butter tarts, and Lady J bought an extra one so that I could have one. And I was like, yeah, right, I'm celebrating 100 days, no flour, no sugar. And that's how I might celebrate tomorrow. So it's still up in the air. I haven't committed my food. Well,
don't do it. Because how are you going to get to 200 days?
I can take one day and restart for tomorrow. So this is, again, the navigating mindfulness is happening in my life. I just wanted to share. Today I am celebrating 100 days in a row, no flour, no sugar. And that is a very, very big deal. We might want to put up a before and after, but I haven't taken one. So we'll have to do that today. So that's the other thing, right? Is like celebrating. That's part of the mental part of the square of doing that. And I never used to do that. So that's my big one. So thank you for acknowledging. Thank you for the bio. Really, really love that. You're so good at this.
Well,
I'm a little drier.
That leads me, I guess, to my first question,
yes.
which would be, what are you focusing on right now? So, of course, you've got your 100 days, I guess, under your belt is the best way to say that. Yeah. In addition to that, is there any other spaces that you're actively focusing on?
So I definitely focus on all sides of the square. So the physical is getting outside a little bit more. I think the coronavirus, which we haven't even talked about, the era that we're in for a long time we were sort of like not going out, and we've been spending a lot of time in nature lately. And so adding in the physical part, I'm going to say emotionally, really my relationship with myself, like being able to celebrate 100 days is a big deal. What I haven't shared with you is like before stringing 100 days together, there were 4 months of the mental gymnastics, it's been called, of like, okay, I have a good day, I have a non-compliant day, I have a, so that there was this teeter-tottering for 160 days prior that led to this. And I think that was really part of the journey. The other relationship that I'm focused on, obviously, is the one with my daughter. She's, at 11, you're in puberty, and with, again, the coronavirus and trying to figure out what to do with school and that. And mentally, the business is a big part of that. Money is a big part of the mental capacity. Fun is a big part of it. I feel really blessed that I get to do what I love. Again, coronavirus did have some impact on us. It's been a gift because at least I have been able to spend some time with my daughter as she enters puberty. And then the spiritual part, really, this is a big one. I think you've known me for a long time, and I'm not very public. So the fact that you and I are doing this is a very big deal that I'm very big deal. So yes, there's a lot of, I'm glad that we had some time before we actually did this so that I could get comfortable with it. So it's still learning to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, I would say.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. The big one is really right now, how will I celebrate the 100 days in a row? Do I just roll into 101, or what does that look like? Or do I continue the experiment and add in a little bit to see if it's going to send me squirrely? Really for work, I mean, it's September is coming. Like, how are we going to grow the businesses, and what are we doing? And a lot of it really does stem from us. I would also like to start dating at some point. It's the time and the space and the clarity around that is, what I'm seeking. So I'm gonna summarize it by saying the biggest thing is stabilizing my morning routines and my nighttime routines, because I find that when I do those two things, I just function a lot better. I feel better. My body is in alignment with what I'm doing. And so it means like meditating, journaling with your journals, actually, right? So yes.
Product placement.
And I will, at this point, I will testify, it's been my journal of choice since I started using them. That's probably 15.
Sure.
Is that
I don't know. When did you buy your first one? Was it when I was still in America?
Yes.
Oh, isn't that nice? Oh, yeah, I remember that.
I'm pretty sure because I couldn't get my thing to work because of my postal code. That was when my US card wasn't working.
Wow.
And I had to do something. Yeah. So it's been 5 years. I probably have almost. No, I don't have every color. I didn't do your red, white, and blue one. But I have the other ones.
Okay.
Yeah, I love her products. Anyways, so yes, the journals, and then doing some type of physical activity. The toughest for me though is turning off my screens at 9:00 at night and making sure that I'm sleeping by a certain time. That has been a challenge. So regarding the physical, which has been my primary concern, because my square was like, I was like 7, 8, 9, 10 all around, and my physical was like 5 for all of the journals, including my last one. So I'm very excited to start my new one with your guided journaling parts, where it might not be a 5 or a 6 this time. It might be a little bit more symmetrical, I guess is the word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I'm very excited about that. And that really happens one meal at a time. Like, it's literally one meal at a time. So while it sounds very simple, probably for most, it is the thing that I struggle with by far with anything. And it has a trickling effect on everything else.
Yeah.
Right? So my relationships are better with myself and my daughter and everyone else. And I'm able to think a lot clearer. for the fun parts, like we're finally doing this together, and you know, my daughter and I will do more outdoor things. And lo and behold, I'm actually doing this with you, which is like a mega jump of magic.
Mega.
It is.
Gorgeous. I love that. And I guess another question that I have is like, what has been the biggest area of your life that has shifted as you've gone through your personal growth journey? Of course, like, if I'm not mistaken, before you even got into the personal growth magic, like you were already an entrepreneur and you were already like doing the thing. So from then and then until now, what do you think has been like the biggest thing that's changed for you?
That's a great question. Gosh, I've always been a faithful person. So yes, the universe, for me, I think it's always been God in the universe. So my faith has remained intact. I'm going to say, I mean, owning my power gracefully, if that makes sense, like the understanding of it's mine with, you know, the God and the universal supernatural added, and learning to tap into that. And then using power as opposed to force. I have learned a very big difference between forcing something and then, you know, the power of receiving, like right when we were talking about earlier. And then the grace part. I think when you're forcing things, it can be received as being abrasive, aggressive, assertive, as opposed to when you apply the grace to the power, it's just so much more pleasant, right? Yeah. I'm going to say those are probably the biggest things. And then overarching, I can apply that to what we are referring to as the peace of mind square.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I think that's very interesting because I know for myself, like I'm previously was very much used to having to be the person that made things happen. You know, like I was always the person my mom asked to fix things, because if she asked somebody else, it just wasn't going to get done for quite a long time. Or even when it came to work or anything like that, like I have to be the one to do the things. Delegating was very difficult, you know, trusting people to be able to do the thing that I, you know, want them to do was very difficult for me. And I think I used to have a lot of value and get a lot of satisfaction out of achieving, you know, like, oh, this was so hard, and then, you know, that top when you get there, you're like, yeah, I did the thing, look at me. And now I don't think it's like I've gotten older and it's changed. It's just like, I just don't see the value in struggle anymore. And I've noticed how much, and I think it was just like the active practice of letting things fall into place for me and just like practicing that trust. I've noticed how much more delicious that outcome is versus, you know, struggling and striving for a goal, hitting the goal, and then just thinking, okay, well, what's the next thing? It's not as, you know, like I don't have the energy to celebrate the goal because I expended it out trying to push it into place. Versus if I was attempting to create something or have something happen and then, you know, just be very clear, like, this is what I want it to look like and it's going to be great, and then just seeing it all come into place is just so delicious. And actively attempting to allow my life to run that way in more areas has brought me so much more peace of mind, and also increased the capacity I have to do things as well. So I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like, I want to live until, like, you know, I'm good, you know what I mean? So that takes a look at the stress that you have in your life. That takes a look at, you know, your weight, your habits. Like, are you giving to yourself? And if you're not giving to yourself in that context, like your body is not going to be able to give to you. So super important there.
Yeah.
Okay. So last question, I guess, is what do you think, or why do you think people should go through personal growth work?
Ooh.
Right? That was a delicious one. Like, pow!
Gotta love you, man. This is the whole reason, right? You're just so good at really extracting the good from people and guiding them. It's amazing. You know, there's somebody said, like, you don't know what you don't know. Right? And if we go with that original stat, it's like you're only using 10% of your brain. And if your brain is the source, connected to your heart, connected to above, it's sort of the gateway. And if you're not willing to put the work in there, then I just, for me, based on experience, like when you talk about sharing and the experience of, you don't have the practice of going a little bit further, or giving yourself permission to dream, right? Because of these limiting beliefs, if you will. So for me, my fundamental belief is that everyone deserves the time and the space to do the personal and professional development. And the reality is, we live in a world that not everybody has that opportunity. And so if you have the opportunity, why wouldn't you do it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So for me, it's everyone deserves to do it so that they can achieve whatever their greatest purpose is in life. That said, I know that there are people who don't have access to it, and their whole function in life is just to be happy doing the same thing all the time. And there's nothing wrong with that either. In it, I believe that there's still personal growth and professional growth. Like, even if you're walking and you're watering plants along the way, like, you still have a purpose, and that is still going to manifest itself in the context in which we're speaking, where you're actively tapping into and you are seeking this. It is for me to live your fullest life, right? To become aware, right? We talk about this all the time, the awareness, the labeling of, so that you can experience and release it. And for me, it is that purest love factor that I can have for others and myself. Yeah. So that's the other one, right? As women, as a mother, the last 10 and a half years have really been focused on her and her needs, and somewhere in there it got a little muddy, and so it's all of that. And so if I can be better for myself and for her, then it's gonna, I can only assume it's gonna be the same for everybody else, right? And if everybody else does the same thing, then the world is just gonna be so much brighter and better and happier. So I believe it starts with the individual, and that's why I think it's really important. My goodness, girl, you got me into this whole deep thinking. I'm like,
I love that, because, like, for me, I really feel like everybody does have a different definition of success, which you did touch on. Some people, it's being able to just feel happy every day as you're doing the things that you're doing. And that could look differently. That could look like picking strawberries. That could look like, we've got house cleaners that love cleaning houses. That's their zone of genius. That's like that like calms them. That's their sweet spot. We've got some people that want to have like multinational conglomerates, and like that feeling of achievement is what they're here to do. Everybody's got a different thing. And as long as, for me, I'm like, as long as people are moving towards that, as long as they are not letting their own limitations take them somewhere that they don't need to be, that isn't serving them. And I think even, the process of relearning, because in our school systems, we haven't been taught, like, what is self-actualization? How do we become entrepreneurs? How do we even ask for what we want? And I'm going to even talk about the whole, like, sex ed situation. Like, we tell people, like, how to not get pregnant, or about, abstinence, or like uvulas or whatever. However, we don't tell them about, like, okay, how do you ask for what you want? What is a healthy relationship? Like, how do you practice communicating with that person? And like, these are the things that we, as we go along, we notice, like, hey, this is a blind spot we have. And in doing personal growth work, then it makes it easier for us to notice our blocks, move through them, and like really get the deliciousness that we've been wanting. Let's all move towards our highest versions of ourselves, and that's super important.
One last add-on before we turn over to you is, about you and I, this is really an example of the support that is required also in all areas when you are looking to make a big move, or to elevate, or to navigate. Having a guide is important, and sometimes it is the mirror reflections of others in front of you or around you that can reveal the blind spots, right? That are going to propel you forward. And so one of the major things things in the 100 days together, like stringing those 100 days together, is the amount of support. So I want to thank you up until now just for everything before we turn over. And, you know, what's on your mind today, Miss Sutherland?
Geez. I mean, there's always a lot of things. Like, I'm really excited because, okay, so as of right now, it's August 27th. There's been so much that's gone on for everybody in Rona season, and my business has taken a clear 180. Whereas where I was operating from before was very, it was still delicious. However, it wasn't as good as it could be. And then really allowing me to work within my zone of genius, which is doing more speaking, doing more workshops, like that facilitation, versus attempting to just build a e-commerce company. And although, you know, PleaseNotes is amazing, it was a stepping stone. It is continues to be a stepping stone in helping me evolve. And this is why I'm so passionate about personal growth and then also entrepreneurship, because I honestly feel like starting your own business is the biggest personal growth workshop you could ever go into, because you have to challenge a lot of your own expectations, you know, being able to practice trusting people, like relying on other people, you know, like even like being able to be vulnerable to share, this is what I'm doing, this is why it's amazing, and this is why you should support me, is something that, you know, you have to say. So it really allows you to get out of your own way. And then every single time something new is going to happen, like the first time you talk to somebody about carrying your stuff and then they totally screw you over, like how do you price yourself, like how do you ask for like the things that you want. One of the things that have been coming up for me is I don't speak for free anymore, and that's something that I'm very clear about and I'm very excited about, because I've gone through that phase of practicing and, you know, being able to share and feeling very confident in the things that I'm doing now. And therefore, my thing is coming up against, okay, when somebody asks me to do an event, I'm like, cool, awesome. What's the compensation? Like, what does that look like? What is the value exchange? And I actually have a blog post on the PleaseNotes website about this. It's like, okay, well, there has to be something. There has to be an energetic win-win. For some people, it comes up to like, they do want to practice and they do want to refine some things, and that's totally fine. You're getting something out of that. For me, I'm like, I know my thing. I know I have all the systems in place, and being able to offer like a free download and maybe get some emails doesn't do it for me. I've done that. You know, the traction isn't there. What I want is the energy exchange. So if you're not able to afford my speaker fee, I totally get it. However, what are you going to proffer somebody in exchange? And I think that like, that's something that's, it's a new place where I have to say, yeah, okay, well then this is what this looks like. And, you know, some people are more willing and they're just like, yeah, here's the money. That's totally fine. Send me over an invoice or a proposal and I've got it all together and that's it. However, I think that's the whole point of all of this, is to run up against those glass ceilings, those roadblocks, those opportunities for growth, and then understand why is this an issue for you and how you can transcend and like, what is it you want, and then move towards that. So I'm really excited about that. I actually have an email in my inbox that I do have to reply to that is the same thing. That's why it kind of came up. I'm all like, y'all know I don't do this for free. Like during the conversation, and it's quick segue. During the conversation, we were talking on the phone and I was like, okay, cool. What's the compensation? And she starts telling me about like the promotional plan. I was like, okay. And then I was all like, did I stutter? Like, did I say something wrong? And having to be like, okay, well that sounds good. But like, again, what does the compensation look like? And she's like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, you know, like, are you paying people for this, or are you like, what does that look like? And it was so difficult for me to be able to say that. Like, it was weird. And then after, she's like, oh yeah, let me just double check on that. But like, how many levels do we have to go through in order to get what we want? Like, it's this lovely practice of like, no, I'm advocating for myself. It's so weird, but that's me.
Yeah. No, it really ties into the awareness. So you're aware, right, that you have had enough practice and that it is out there for you to be paid. And two, you're labeling it. It's called compensation. Whether you call it an energy, you're being compensated. so now you're experiencing it. And somebody had asked me, what does it mean to experience something fully? And so I think you've answered that question with this, because you're experiencing it. You're going to keep practicing it until you no longer need to practice it anymore. Exactly. And at that point, it becomes released. And so, again, magic with you. I had an outstanding question. Thank you for the example. So what else? What else is going on? What else?
I like how you're not asking me any questions and you're just saying what else?
Because I know it comes up. I mean, I can say specifically, it's like, okay, so that's work related. And so I can go into relationships.
Sure, why not? Let's go.
Why not? Let's go there, because I'm sure you have some juiciness to share that's going to benefit others, maybe even me. So it's like, what's going on with your relationships with self, with others, family, maybe even?
I love how you're actually not asking me a specific question. Ask me a specific question, Liza. I want it.
How's it going with your dating? What's the last thing?
Well, let me tell you about my dating. Well, with my dating, so I have dating is very interesting. And I feel like everywhere that I've lived, so I'm originally from Calgary, Alberta, moved to California. I was living in Long Beach and LA for a couple years, then moved to Ontario. So now I'm back in Canada, and I've noticed that there are definitely different dating styles within all those different areas. So me being a heterosexual cisgender woman of color, things are just, there's just different levels to things that I'm not used to, I guess. And so one of the things that I've been running into as of late is just really stepping into okay, well, what is it that I want, and being very clear and really living as if I'm in this delicious relationship that I do desire. Because what I'm looking at right now is getting into a relationship that's long-term. And then if it works, then getting married with this particular person. I do want to get married. I'm go back and forth about children only because I want it to be I want to raise children in a partnership. And if I don't have that, then that's tricky for me. But that's just, of course, my personal thing. Some people will do all the things to get all the children. I'm really good. If I don't have it's I want a dog, but unless I have somebody else to have that shared responsibility, I'm not about it. So I'll be a great dog auntie and a great human auntie. But the great thing that's been happening as of late with dating is I've noticed that I have practiced asking for what I want in more areas of my life and not this one. So when it comes to physicality, when it comes to, okay, God, I want this, talking to, the universe and stuff like that, I'm used to doing that. And previously in my previous life, I don't know, before getting into, really practicing personal growth work, I had a lot of difficulty in regards to being a people pleaser and then having to be a different person for different people based on what I assumed they needed from me. And then that was really tricky because it was super draining energetically. However, now I'm okay, I'm clear on what I want my relationship to be with. I want to be with somebody that's equally yoked, that has a high wealth consciousness, that is really interested in pursuing me, and then just being that person that we're very similar in some ways, where they're very progressive or open-minded, and then of course they are very much actively working on themselves as well. And what I've been encountering as a result of my attraction properties is been people that aren't that as yet. And it's interesting because there was this one person I was talking to just even yesterday, and even going and planning a date, why do I have to just ask if you're asking a person out, plan the date is really not a difficult thing, a concept. If I was to ask a man out, I'd be okay, cool, let's meet here and do the things, right? It doesn't really have to be that difficult. However, I felt guilty asking, wait, you were going to plan this date? What is all this talk? And even with the guy that I was talking to previously, I was okay, you know, like, you want to meet in person, where are we going to meet? And he's like, you come to my house. I'm like, no, A, it's Rona season, and B, I've seen enough Criminal Minds. I'm not going to just drive all the way up to your house and just like be like, hey, look at me, I'm random. Like I'm not gonna, like, Shamar Moore would shout, like, you know, like, wag his finger at me. Like, I'm not doing that, right? So like, how do I continue to just hold the space of, no, this is what I want, and communicating that, instead of like feeling the need to come in and be like, oh, well, maybe he doesn't know, or maybe he's not used to having to ask, or blah, blah, blah. Like, I switched to this mode that's really icky and super low energy. So I noticed that again, coming up with this person. We were supposed to apparently hang out at 9:30 at night yesterday. And I was like, okay, well, what are we doing? What do you have planned? He's like, we'll just talk. I'm all like, why would I drive an hour just to talk to you when we could do that over the phone? Like, what do you want to do? He's okay, well, let's go to a restaurant. Okay, what restaurant do you want to go to? I don't know, anywhere with veg. And I'm like, so are you, like, let me know when you've picked a place. And then, you know, 8:30 comes around and he's like, oh, I just finished up at work. And he works for himself. I just finished up at work. It was like, where do you want to go? I'm like, you haven't, like, taking the time to actually just plan something, it doesn't take that much energy. However, at the same time, it just shows how for me, how much a person respects you, like, what expectations, like, do you want to actually take care of me? Can you actually lead me? Is this actually going to be a like a healthy long-term relationship? Because I'm very much an alpha, and I don't want to have to be an alpha woman with a beta man in that context. Like, if you're willing to say, like, oh, this is what I want, I don't want to have to coax this out of you. I don't want this relationship to be me, like, pulling you to do things. Like, what is this? It should be 50-50 versus, or like 100-100 ideally, versus like 110 or 130 and like 70, right? So it's and then, so like, really having that conversation of like letting things go and just being like, you know what, the right person's gonna come and it's gonna be amazing, and I'm not really interested in this person that much anyway. Like, obviously they're showing me who they are, like, personality wise, and it's just not what works for me.
Yeah. I love that you, at the very beginning, were very clear that you needed to be equally yoked, and you kind of just went full circle and went 100 and one. Like, I love that you went through the whole 50-50, no, 100 and 100, and then if it's not, so, I mean, you're clear, and
Yes, I am.
you're clear.
But in practice, I become unclear. I become the waffler. Pour some syrup on me, baby, because I waffle.
Well, if they came up with that idea on their own, I'm pretty sure you'd be game for it. But if you had to tell them that, you'd probably be like,
I don't want to do that.
yeah, you don't want to do that. Okay,
And
so we're clear.
I've never had to ask, like, if a person asks me out and they're like, yeah, let's go and do something, I'm like, cool, what are we doing? And they're like, hey, let's just go meet at Dave and Buster's. Let's do this at 8:30 on Thursday. Cool, yeah. Awesome. That way I know what to wear. That way I know, like, where to go. Like, I can plan my day around that. But if you're like trying to tell me 30 minutes before we're supposed to meet, this is what the plan is, like, do you actually really care about this?
Right.
Yeah.
Noted. So for the gentlemen that are going to be tuning in, be prepared.
Jesus.
Be prepared. Be prepared. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a very specific question now that we've tackled relationships.
Thank you, Liza.
You're very welcome. So I know that physical is on both of our radars.
Yeah.
We're very aware of the mind-body connection, and you mentioned this earlier on about getting into alignment with your body. So where are you right now with your body? Like,
we are actually really good friends right now. And honestly, it's probably the best friendship that we've ever had before. Whereas I think I was so used to always seeing the negatives, and like now looking back in pictures, like what everybody does when they get, you know, a little older or thicker or whatever, they're like, I really wish that I could see myself the way I see myself now back then. Do you know what I mean? Like, really, like, because I was A1 delicious, you know, like before my body type became popularized and in fashion or whatever. I looked
Cannot see
delicious.
your body type.
I mean,
They
like,
need
y'all
to
see the
describe.
pictures, just make sure you follow on the Instagrams. It's fine. It's fine. However, like, I'm tall. I'm like 5'9.5", and like my body type is one that is pear-shaped, right? So, however, a lot of my insecurities were around my weight, my non-existent pooch. You know, I've had some boyfriends comment about like arm fat, and I'm just all like, okay, well, now I'm gonna make this an issue in my head. Even cellulite. Cellulite was a big thing for me, especially like growing up. I got cellulite before I even got my period. I think it was like 11 or 12 when that first happened. I was like, people were like, what is this? And of course, for me, the place that I went to was guilt and shame.
Right.
And then now I think that because I've actively been like, you know what? I'm listening to my body. She knows exactly what she wants to do. Again, that level of trust is really growing there. And like when it comes to like working out, when it comes to eating things, like I don't deny myself anything. However, I'm like, is this something that I want right now? And I'm like, does this work for me? Does this not work for me? If it works for me, do it. Eating out of joy versus guilt. And that has actually been working for me really well. I threw away my scale, which was really fun. I haven't been on a scale in over like maybe like a year and a half. And then before that, it was probably like a year as well. You know, not setting goals around what my weight loss is. Like, oh, I'm going to talk to that person, or I'm going to buy new clothes, or I'm going to treat myself to this when I hit this number on the scale. Like that level of conditional love is not what I want in my life. And it's also not what I want with my relationship with my body. So now, I mean, like I work out pretty regularly, and I make sure that I do things that are fun, that feel really good for both me and her, I guess. And then when it comes to eating, like, again, like just having more fun with things. And I think that that's been the most interesting part of it. In addition to that, just really celebrating myself. Like now when I look in the mirror, I'm just all like, God, I look delicious. Right? Like, is this what other people get to see all the time? Because they are so lucky, and authentically meaning that and understanding that. Even when I see like my tattoos, like that are going over my rolls, or the cellulite, like understanding that like I have a delicious body, and everybody does, as long as you decide that you do. I mean, like look at David Spade. Like he gets so many girls all the time, and you're just like, how does he do that? Because he loves himself and he believes in himself. So it's the same thing. Also, one thing I recently found out is that cellulite wasn't even a thing until the First World War. Like it was just your leg. Like legit, people were like, that's actually something that was made up by the beauty industry to sell more products to women, because now they were entering the workforce and they saw it as an opportunity to make money. The same way that people actually started doing like, you have to freeze your eggs at a certain time, otherwise like you're not going to be able to have kids. That was actually created by people that are owning these like cryogenic companies or whatever that needed to boost money. They just took advantage of women's, I guess, like playing on their emotions. Yeah, playing on their emotions and being like, oh, you need to fix this. This is a problem you had on your in yourself. And so for myself, who I've actively had like a plethora of cellulite since I was, again, very young, looking at my body, and instead of being like, oh, I would look absolutely perfect if I didn't have like all these wrinkles and dips and et cetera, to being like, oh my gosh, look at my body shape, because I am delicious. And really sitting in that space and owning it. And that's why I love people like the Bird's Papaya. She's doing something very similar in regards to, you know, like her stomach and her stretch marks and her cellulite and all that sort of stuff, as she's gone through it and grown, you know, multiple people out of her body, right? And then also like continuing to show that she had difficulty with her body when she was younger. Like body dysmorphia is still something that a lot of people work with. And then just the more that we practice loving and trusting ourselves and taking care of ourselves, that it's like the better we're all in, or we are all at. I'm like, I wore this outfit last weekend that I was like, I've never worn, like I would have never worn something like this outside, and I'm kind of scared, and it was amazing, and I'm so proud of myself. And like, I'm like, you're doing it for the gram show. Like the pictures all look great. and I look so good and I had so much fun, and like just wearing shorts, like I've never really worn shorts before. And like that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't understand. Like that's something that's so freeing if you've never allowed yourself to wear a specific piece of clothing because you've had a body issue, right? It's, I don't know, it's wild. I love it.
You know what? Congratulations to you, though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm wearing cutoff shorts right now. Wait, can you see
There it is. Show the body. Show the
Okay.
body.
I mean, like, it's a thing. Hang on.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah, so you can see the shorts. Look at that. Woo!
Happening.
The chair did not break, and I'm proud of myself.
You know, girl. Yeah, you're so amazing, though. Like, you have so much courage, you know, that it's quite inspiring. I don't know if I would have done this without you, so I appreciate you for that. I like how you gave me a curveball question, so I may reciprocate. Are you open?
Curveball question? I don't
You're
know.
at the very end. You're like, why should people do the business side? So my question is going to be about, you know, the title that we came in with, Navigating Mindfulness, and our intent for speaking with business people or people who want to get into it. Why do you think the two are so important? Like the peace of mind square and how it's going to impact business as a whole.
Well, one of the things that I love is that the saying that whatever you do in one area of your life, you do in all areas of your life. However you do one thing, you do everywhere. You do the same thing everywhere in your life. And I think that when you take a look at integrating mindfulness in your life, all it is you're training your most important tool, which is your brain. Like you could learn how to do algebra, you can like, you know, get other people to do your accounting. However, when it comes to succeeding in your goals, leading your life, like even just changing the way you feel in a day-to-day basis, there's no way that you can outsource that. There's no way that you can control that or have that happen externally. And it would be remiss for you to do that. Like, could you imagine leaving that power in other people's hands to either make you happy or make you sad, when you are authentically the only one that has the power to make you happy, make you sad, make you successful, make you loyal, make you feel secure, make you abundant, you know, give you the freedom that you desire. And I think the more that you actually, the more you actually start to unlock that, and not even like all the way on the woo-woo side, like you can play in that where you're like out there doing ayahuasca, which is amazing, FYI. You could go and like, you could go all the way out there where you're like on a silent retreat in like Tibet or something if you want, like all the way like that way. But like authentically, like how do you apply this in the day-to-day, the day-to-day portions? Like how do you choose to get bad news and be like, okay, how do I disseminate this so I move through it quicker? I don't like to waste time. I don't like to waste energy. I attempt to go for efficiency. And I think that personal growth feeds into that, because it's like the quicker you can get over this blockage, the quicker you could step into something else. Like, let's say, for example, I used to feel like I was a burden. And it's very weird for me to say that now, because I recognize that, and it's so different from where I am right now. And I think it's also because I value myself so much more. And so with that, I would have never asked for help. I would have never been like, hey, can we work together, or DM someone. I would have to feel like I needed to do it by myself, which probably was why I ended up being the way that I was, which is very interesting because I'm only piecing this together during this call. So very interesting.
Magical question.
Look at how that happened. However, with that, if I had not been willing to ask, if I had not been willing to reach out for support, if I had not been able to just practice, you know, understanding my value, then there's so many doors that I would have never been able to open. If I had not said yes to personal growth work, then I would have not had the amazing relationships with the friends and family that I do now. I have never had such supportive, holistic, like no matter, like no shit, no kidding relationships where I can actually just ask somebody for something or have a conversation without expecting that they expect something from me in return. Before that, I never had that. In addition to like when it comes to work or when it comes to business, like the other day I slid in somebody's DMs and I was like, oh my gosh, I love your work. I think you're hashtag amazing. Like I would love to do something together. Let's put together a call. Of course, in my super excited, this is going to be amazing, like text voice. And she said yes. And then as a result, I was able to launch my first 6-week, now it's a 7-week course that, you know, I got 3,000 people registered, over 500 people in a Zoom room. Could I have done that myself? Maybe in a couple years. Yeah, for sure. However, the fact that like I was very clear that I was ready for this level of success now, all I need to do is practice acting from that place and allowing it to come in. I wouldn't have been able to do that before. Same thing. I would have probably been like still living in Calgary, pregnant, and been like upset with my life. Like my first boyfriend was horrific. And but that's would have been my expectation. So in taking the time to really allow yourself to dream, to believe that you could have the things that you have the things that you want, and then have those dialogues, having that conversation, really being able to disseminate from what's real and what's your brain is just making up to keep you safe is so, so important. So
I love that.
everybody should do personal growth work. We're amazing.
I love it. I love it. So with that, I know, I think we're coming up on time a little bit here.
Yeah, we totally are.
But it's okay. I mean,
first episode was always supposed to be longer anyway.
Yeah. Well, we definitely revealed a lot about ourselves, and there's a theme for you I want to just highlight before we go is like practice asking. Like I have no problem asking, but I'm not clear 100% all the time because there's so many options. And so again, it's one meal at a time for me. For you though, I when you play this back, if you listen to it, it's definitely the practicing to ask. And so it's been beautiful to watch alongside you, like as we've been over the last 5 years. Yeah, just to see the development and growth. I'm so excited for you. I know you're a phenomenal speaker, and very excited that you're doing these classes. So
me too.
With that, what's the next step for our navigating mindfulness?
Okay, that was a horrible drum roll, but it's fine. The next step is basically, what are we going to do next? So the whole layout of the that we wanted for these is that every other episode, we will bring on a guest that talks about a specific part of the peace of mind square. So we're going to be talking about finances, we're going to be talking about relationships, we're going to be talking about physical stuff, etc., etc., etc. These normally will run about 30 minutes at a time. So you'll get a little less us and then, you know, a little bit more of the guest. And then of course, we're still going to continue having these conversations of things that we're growing through, whether you get a lovely update about my delicious dating situations, or if, you know, like Liza's daughter is like navigating some stuff, we get to hear about it. And then it's going to keep continuing to go forward, moving that way. And then of course, how do you stay in touch with us in the meantime? Make sure that, again, that you subscribe to the podcast. You send it out to any people that you feel like could use a little bit of something. In addition, what you're going to want to do is make sure you stay in touch with us. I know for myself, I'm on social media. We're going to drop the links below in the show notes, and so you can connect with both of us as well. And then if you've got any ideas, any thought processes around things that you want us to share, people you would like us to bring on, we would love to hear from you, because again, it's in the sharing that's where we grow. And that's why we're here together to do this stuff, is for this growth. So with that, I feel complete in today. What do you feel, Liza?
I feel great. I want to thank you for doing the intro and telling everybody what's next, and just really having fun with you today. I'm very excited.
That's one of the things I'm actively attempting to work on, is having more fun. And this seems like, and it always seemed like so much fun. And so I think that's you need to find it. Everybody needs to find something that, or not even need, but something that fills you in a way that, you can have that sort of fun while you're still doing a lot of the things that you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, Rona season's difficult for everyone. However, we've got to just have the opportunity to play with new things and practice new things. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you again, Liza, for being #amazing. And
Awesome to you.
yeah, make sure you come back. We'd love to have you hang out, send us an email, do all the things.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day. Bye.
Have a good one. This.